Yeah, still
Any Given Sunday Australia is proud to be supported by one of Australia's fastest growing men's grooming brands, Nutcare. Proudly Australian, Nutcare is taking down under-grooming to the modern-day man. Recently voted number 1 by Men's Health magazine with bare nuts, pubic hair removal cream, Nutcare is revolutionizing male grooming. As proud supporters of Any Given Sunday, Nutcare is offering our listeners 10% off their first orders. Simply use promo code Any Given Sunday at the checkout, and the discount will be applied. Nutcare, essential grooming for men.
Brown 45! Brown 45! Hot, 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 hot!
You are listening to Any Given Sunday, Australia.
Yes, hello and welcome to the Any Given Sunday Australia podcast, the number one podcast in 3 households, 1 studio, NFL Australia head office, American Football Australia head office. Wade, he loves it. Spoke to him this morning. He is a huge fan of the episodes that we've been putting out. Joining us, as always, in the attic, in the attic, wherever that may be. Ask Tim Cardy, AGSAU TC24. How are you, mate?
Hey, brother. Yeah, I'm trying out like studio version. I think like 3.0 or something like that. We're up to maybe.
Could be 4.
I'm pretty happy with this setup. I don't mind the look of this one. We'll see. See how long I can hang on to this for, though.
Yeah, it looks great, mate. Also,
next time I'll probably be out the backyard or in maybe the dog's kennel or something.
I was going to say, go join the dogs. The dogs
That's
love
where
it.
I'm at in the pecking order in the house.
And also in his little man cave, in his little corner of his household, Ash Danny Webb, AGSAU. How are you, big dog?
I'm always in the doghouse, so I'm flying away.
The doghouse is the real house, so that's all that matters. All right, we've had a pretty big week. Football was back. I don't know how much of the game you boys actually saw, but I was that excited. I watched the entire Hall of Fame game, all 3 quarters before the rain kicked it off, which was good for my little bet because it was going to lose. So I got my money back, which was good. We do have some preseason games. All the preseason games are starting this week. And it begins on Friday morning. The Panthers playing the Patriots. Jotham Russell, I can confirm, is playing in that game. So huge for the boys. We got one of the Australians playing in that game. And the Lions versus the Giants. But make sure that you get all that and you can watch it all on Game Pass because not every game of the preseason especially is going to be on ESPN or Channel 7. So make sure you get the Game Pass. We've got a link. You can find our link on all of our socials. Or on our link tree, which has been updated, so it's all good, prime, ready to go. Make sure you get on there and you can watch your team throughout the whole preseason and into the season. I love it. I use it. It's grouse.
Who's that with?
It's Game Pass through DAZN or Danzon.
Okay.
We're going to say DAZN.
DAZN.
It's definitely DAZN. Yes, Carts, well done. We're on to week 4, I think. I'm pretty sure, of our previews. We're going with the NFC West. Everyone thought it was going to be the NFC North if we had it followed, but no, we changed it up. NFC West, and it starts with, as always, we'll go through last year. It was a pretty successful division. 2 of the teams making it to the playoffs. The first game was in the wildcard weekend. We had the number 6 Rams. They actually went and played with Stafford playing against Goff. Against the Lions, the number 3 Lions they were. And they went down, they lost 23-24 in a pretty exciting game for those that watched it, those that remember it. It was the first installment of Stafford versus Goff. Carts, do you remember that game, how big it was down in Detroit?
I do remember that game. I remember that there was a bit of stuff with the family. Didn't his wife and kids get booed when they were out on the field before the game? Is that right? Am I remembering that right?
You are remembering it 100% correctly, yeah. It was a bit of a shame because he did give so much for Stafford for the Lions.
Yeah, I reckon it was a bit of tongue-in-cheek, but, not too bad.
And besides the result, I think the biggest thing is that Eminem was in the crowd. He was there hyping everyone up.
He is Detroit through and through, though. He is a Motor City man, and he's always going to be there. It was just good to see the Lions after having such a long playoff win drought. Was it since 1993? Don't quote me on that.
It was 30 years since they'd last been in the playoffs, I think.
1993 kind of works well for that. So we'll stick with that. Yep.
Sounds good.
Check. That works. So yeah, it was good to see them come out and have a full crack and, go up against the Rams. And Stafford obviously wanted to make sure he beat his old team. Goff wanted to make sure he beat his old team. So it was good. It was just a good all-out battle. And for it to go down to 1 point, it was a very exciting game.
Yeah, it was exciting for the Lions, but we're not talking about the Lions. It's about the Rams. They couldn't get the chocolates. It was a bit of bad luck, but I probably should have gone through the actual division results beforehand. The Niners, they actually finished first, which is the next game I'm about to talk about. They finished with a 12-5 record. The Rams 10-7, taking into that 6th seed. The Seahawks were just below them on 9-8. Like I said, it was a pretty competitive division between those three. And the Cardinals had some injury issues, especially with Kyler Murray, and a little bit of dramas in the behind the scenes. They end up at 4-13. They were a bit of the basket case, especially of the division and probably of the league, really. The number 1 Niners, so they played my Packers, who just beaten the number 7, or we were the number 7, first number 7 to ever make it this far into the playoffs. They steamrolled us 24-21. We were a chance in that game, but I'm sure we'll talk about it more when we speak about the Packers. The game I really want to talk about is the NFC Championship game. So they moved on, played the Lions, who got the job done in the first 2 weekends, and it was quite an interesting game. Danny boy, I know you were all over this. The Niners won 34-31, but they were 24-7 down at halftime and looking quite abysmal, really.
Yeah, they just weren't really playing their game that they've been playing all season. So the 49ers had a relatively successful season until Debo went down. And I think they lost 3 straight during that time. But yeah, still finished with that 12-5 record. So when they were going in to face the Lions were obviously coming in off that big win against the Rams, as we were talking about earlier. It was an incredible comeback, and it was good to see that comeback, to see how far Brock has really progressed in his role as QB1 since he kind of took over 2 years ago. And to be able to deliver on that and, produce such a strong comeback just kind of showed like his maturity and the way that he could handle the game in big situations.
Yeah, they were well and truly outplayed by the Lions in the first half. Like I said, down 24-7. But that second half, outscoring them, I think it was 22-7 in the end to win by 3, but they were pretty comfortable. They're up by 10 with only a couple of minutes to go. So for what was realistically probably their worst half for almost the season. But like you said, Debo had been injured coming into the game, so that was a big storyline. He had that shoulder injury that he had earlier in the year flare up against the Packers the week before. So, Cart, you're a man of the injury. How to be able to shake that off and still provide a quality game from Debo, it obviously went a long way for them getting the chocolates that game.
Well, absolutely. And everyone, the pundits and everyone, they were so quick to write off the 49ers when they had that little dip, sort of the mid to later half of the season. So yeah, a fit and firing Debo, as we know, is a pretty potent weapon for him.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, we've spoken about so much how actually potent they were last year. So they went on to the Super Bowl. We're not going to talk too much about it because we do have the Chiefs. We'll talk about it a bit more when we actually speak with them, because they did go on a win. For those that don't know, the 49ers 22, beaten by the Chiefs 25, pretty late in the game. It was a quality game. I remember half of it, so you guys can have the second half when we talk about that game. But we will talk about that when we cross the Chiefs. But that was last year, so 49ers were obviously the dominant team of that division. Not necessarily going to be into this year, as we will get on and talk about in a second. But in the past, they've also been the dominant team in the division. They've won 3 of the last 5, and they've won actually 22 division titles in total. And the Rams, who used to be St. Louis but are now LA, they've won 16. So they're actually their closest rival in the division. So realistically, San Fran's division to lose, as it has been the last 20 or 30 years, really. Some of the stories from the offseason, though, Danny, you brought up a great point that the NFC West has been pretty predominant in the Super Bowl lately.
Yeah, so the NFC West has actually represented the NFC in 4 out of the last 6 Super Bowls. And then just talking about how you were just talking about the 49ers, how they were dominant. Uh, in the past 5 years, they've made it to 4 of the past 5 championship games as well. So they've always been up there. You're saying that they've got the potential to fall down, maybe have that Super Bowl hangover. They lost the Super Bowl in 2019. Then straight after that, in 2020, they went 6-10 and was last in the division. But I think since then they've having Brock there and the fact that they bring back all 11 offensive starters, which that offense as well last year had the second most yards in all of the NFL. I agree with the bookies, and I'm sure we're going to get to it later. I can't see them not taking out this division again.
That year when they had that bit of a down year, though, I reckon they had a fair few injuries. Was 2020 the year that Brock started? Am I wrong?
No, Brock started when we had started during this first season of
the year after.
Yeah, so it's 2021.
Yeah, but they did. I reckon Jimmy was a bit injury prone, and a few of the other boys went down. So I wouldn't hate it. I won't lie. I wouldn't hate it if they had a bit of a Super Bowl hangover. A bit late in the preseason. Everyone else has kind of got started before them, but yeah, they've definitely been the dominant in the NFC West, and realistically, probably the NFC in the last 4 or 5 years.
I just can't see it happening. When you bring back 11 of the starters, I know they're losing a little bit on defense, and there's been a few people switching in and changing there, but they were the only times they were losing games is when players are out injured. So if they can keep their whole 11 offensive starters healthy, they're such a dominant force. They are such a dominant force, and I know you want to see him fail because of the Green Bay. You got your cheesehead hat on, but take that off for a second. They're probably the most competitive team in this division.
Yeah, 100%. What a lot of people are saying is their biggest rival, Carts, the Rams. They actually had one of the biggest stories, I guess, of the offseason with big Aaron Donald hanging up the boots.
Yeah, and obviously a massive hole to fill for the Rams. He's pretty much been the heart and soul of that team for the last, I don't know however long he played, but he was
10 years. 10 years.
Let's go 10 years. That sounds great. But when they won the Super Bowl a few years ago now, and he was sort of umming and ahhing, do I run it back? I've won the Super Bowl. Do I play again? And he ended up playing a couple more seasons. Finally retired. You've talked about it before. He's a massive presence in the locker room. He's such a great leader for them, not only what he does on the field, but off the field as well. So massive hole for them to fill. They did obviously realize this massive hole with Donald retiring, and they bolstered their pass rush at the draft. They went their 2 first-round picks with a D tackle and an edge rusher. I think Jared Versay and Braden Fisk. So they have realized that it is big shoes to fill, and they've gone to the draft. It may take a while for this draft stock to hit, but at least they're trying to fill the gap as best they can because, Jesus, he's going to be a massive, massive loss for the Rams, who were, I just want to touch on quickly, they were a pretty big surprise packet last year. They went 10-7. Look at their schedule they had a week 10 bye. They'd only won 3 games up until the bye, and then post-bye, they only dropped 1 game. So they came home, as you like to say, Macca, with a bit of a moist sail, and they won 7 games and only dropping 1 game after the bye, and as you said, went on to the postseason. But massive surprise story. They were a bit, first half of the year, even McVay, there was all the talk about, is he going to coach again and all that? Is he going to run it back? All that sort of stuff. They've kind of had a lingering hangover from the Super Bowl, it feels like. It's rolled over season. And last year, it feels like they kind of broke the hangover finally. So they were a real surprise packet, I thought, having the 10-7 record. But huge shoes to fill with Aaron Donald leaving.
And it's also just not Aaron Donald leaving either. The safety Jordan Fuller's gone, and then the DC Raheem Morris is heading to Atlanta to be their head coach.
Yeah, he's gone to Atlanta.
Yeah, which we've already touched on earlier in the earlier episodes. But yeah, that's just it's not just a single hole. There's multiple holes now that have been shot in that defense, which for a lot of obviously Puka, the cure. Absolutely dominated and gave Stafford that target, especially when Cooper Kupp went down with an injury, I reckon, last season. So it gave him a lot, but the defense was what was really keeping him in a lot of those games. And, now you've just gone and blasted 3 massive holes in it. I think a little bit of a question mark lingers over the Rams and how they're going to recover from this.
That's going to be the tail of the tape for them. And their new DC is Chris Schuler. So massive role for him to fill as well with, like you said, Raheem Morris heading out the door.
Danny, how confident are you that it's Jared versus A? I would have gone with just a verse.
I like verse A. It sounded good. Rolled off the tongue.
It did. I like the confidence he ran with it. It was crisp, real crisp.
Say it confidently and it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. The next story I come up with, and I just really enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to this. Week 1, they've done well, the schedule makers. We've got Goff versus Stafford. Number 2, it's Sunday night football, so they've prime timed them straight away. I reckon this one might be in LA as well. So we had Stafford going back to Detroit, and if I'm going to say it confidently and say it's in LA. So now we've got Goff going back to LA. Exciting game. Danny boy, hopefully
it is in
has
Detroit.
all of the. It is in where?
It's in Detroit.
Shit. So just Goff versus Stafford back in Detroit, round 2. Perfect.
Well, you don't
But
change it.
Danny, I reckon have all the hype. Yeah, that's it. They hyped it up last year and it worked out really well. And I think it's going to be just as good of a matchup this time round.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's smart. The people who make these rosters, they're no dills. they've definitely planned and thought this ahead, because that is an excellent week 1 matchup, because they were so close, that 1-point game in the playoffs last year. And then, it's always going to be the biggest rivalry while they're still playing for those 2 teams. It just has to be, because they've just literally swapped positions. And, Stafford, as we all know, went on to win that Super Bowl, and Goff's still chasing his. So it'll be a great matchup, and I think it's very, very smart for them to put it as a primetime game on Sunday Night Football.
Absolutely. Karts, the last few seasons, you've always had just a little bit of a soft spot for the Seattle Seahawks. They've gone, yes, I like it. Nice little shout out to them.
Yes, Seahawk, any given Sunday edition on. So
nice.
Chuck it
Any
off.
given Sunday.dustautomat.com for those patrons.
Jump on and get
We
your
can
team
get
shirt now.
Any team, any jersey, any jumper, whatever you want. But they've gone through a little bit of a restructure, a bit of a change. Pete Carroll finished up in Seahawks land. How do you see Geno, coming back from that this season?
Well, they've actually had a bit of a shuffle at the top 3, really, coaching positions. Pete's gone. He's been replaced by Mike McDonald. So also the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinators have both moved on. So the new OC, Ryan Grubb, and then the new DC is Aiden Durd. So big change at the top. I think that's going to create a few issues. It's going to take time. And then Geno, coming off the back of Comeback Player of the Year 2022, didn't really have the numbers of that 2022 season last year. He's still got the weapons in like Metcalf, Lockett, Smith and Jigba to use, but they've also bought in and they traded for Sam Howell in the offseason. So he's the backup QB, and just perusing around the internet, just reading a few articles and hearing a few murmurings that, the job is Geno's, but that Sam Howell is definitely going to be nipping at his heels, and he's going to be creating a bit of a quarterback competition. And so if Geno isn't putting up the numbers, I'd expect to see Sam Howell coming in for a start. But just with that change at the top in the hierarchy at the coaching level there, I'm expecting to see a little bit of a dip, unfortunately, for the Seahawks, who, as you mentioned, I do have a little bit of a soft spot for.
When I was doing the picking, I put a lot on their offense and kept thinking, their offense, home game, the 12, that'll get them up and about. The offense will get them over the line. But it sounds like, Danny boy, you're across it. The defense has been shaken up a little bit, and, that could be their weakness going this year.
I think, as much as their defense has been shaken up and it will be a little bit of a weakness, I think the fact that you have bringing in 3 new coaches, you got a new head coach, new DC, and new OC, that is going to rattle anyone, any team. Unless you've got an incredibly strong core, which they've got a junior-ish core, they're not absolutely flying and have been a really strong team for a very long period of time. So without that, then having a full reshuffle of all your coaches, I think it can definitely rattle the team. And it'll be interesting to see how they come out of that, to be honest. And we'll be able to tell by week 3, I think, with how the Seahawks are going to finish this season.
It's definitely going to present a lot of challenges, particularly early. Like you're learning new systems, you're learning how these guys coach, how they want to play their ball. But Mike McDonald has come from the Ravens. He was the DC there, and he did previously have them as like the number 1 scoring or top 3, scoring defense for 2022, 2023. So that's definitely going to help on the defensive side of the ball, which we are a bit suspect on. Like that's going to be their weaker side. So at least definitely that's going to help out there a bit. But I could see it presenting quite a few challenges early in the year for the Seahawks.
I just want to, before we get onto the schedule picking, put it out there that I forgot that their DC and their OC were new. I just went with a new head coach. Don't be so shocked when you hear what I've picked.
I can't wait to do it.
We'll keep our powder dry for that. But
yeah, we will. Because we have one more story. We've got one more team in the division. And it's all about Kyler Murray, I think. Cast, they lost a couple. They've gained someone quite handsome in the offensive side of things. Handsome, like he's good.
And he's good at ball too.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. He's a gorgeous boy. That's what we were really chasing, just gorgeous boys.
Lost Marquez Brown in free agency. He's gone across to the Chiefs, so the Chiefs somehow just keep getting stronger, but that's okay. But they did. They drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he was it pick number 4? I think.
Yeah, correct.
Overall, that sounds about right.
100%.
Hey?
100%.
100%. Sorry, I thought you said 100 and something. Yeah, 100%. Definitely, he was number 4. But the as you said, the biggest question marks are around if they can get a full season out of Kyler, a healthy Kyler. It goes such a long way. When he came back from the knee, he was putting up similar numbers to prime Kyler. So coming off the ACL, as we know, fellow knee bruzzy, one for the homies. But he did come out and he did put up some decent numbers in the back half of last year. And like we know, it was Gannon's first year head coaching last year too, so he's going to be a bit more settled this year. I think they've got 6 new starters on the D line, or maybe on the defensive side of the ball. Sorry, so that as well is going to present a few challenges. So I think the common theme we're seeing is that maybe offensively the teams are quite settled, but then the main questions that are going to be coming from the defenses in the NFC West. It just feels like that's a bit of a trend for this division at the moment.
And I think it's hard because we haven't really seen Kyle Murray and his arm, like when he's been completely healthy for a full season. It's really going to be a really, really hard team to predict. Like, as if he is healthy, it'll be really good to see how he performs over that whole season, if he has highs and lows, or if he's just really consistent. It's just something we haven't seen, so we can't really talk too much on it. But like you're saying, yeah, having that number 4 pick and picking a wide receiver, like they've obviously got faith in him. So hopefully we can actually see this, progress and they actually become a little bit more successful than they were last year.
And I think also importantly, I don't think there's a new Call of Duty coming out, but then I'm not sure when GTA 6 could be a big factor whenever GTA 6 lands. So
326, GTA 6.
Do you reckon he still has in the contract you have to do a certain amount of hours every week?
Yeah, you got to get the hours up on the iPad or whatever
Just sitting over in the corner as he's clocking up a few hours on the thumbs.
It's probably got like eyeball recognition technology. If he's not looking directly at it, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Sorry, apologies. GTA 6 is fall 2025 in America, which would be like our spring 2025.
Ooh.
So it's still 12 months away.
Yeah, still 12 months from now.
They're going to have a ripper season then.
This year should be okay.
I'm going to flip what I've predicted, just reverse it. They could win the Super Bowl now. With the inclusion of Marvin Harrison Jr. carts as well, he's been up there with Caleb Williams for offensive rookie of the year. So if Kyler can have a good year, then Marvin Harrison could have just as good of a year as well. So
I reckon,
stick with you, mate.
I reckon. Hang on 1 second. I reckn there's very, very sneaky chance of actually making the playoffs, and it's going to shock everyone.
Wow.
I think with what they've got, as long as they're all their new starters, like they've drafted well in their defense, like as long as all their new starters, I think out of the 6, 3 or 4 freshies. So as long as they all come in and sometimes you see that with those first year players when they get the ability to start, that they're like locked in and like all they want to do is win. They've still got that college mentality and they're all brothers. and they're going into battle. So I reckon they're almost like, don't get me wrong, they're not going to win the division, but there could be a sneaky chance of sneaking into that playoffs.
Well, we'll leave it for what we're about to do now, which is pick it. You can tell me all about it, but we're going to stick with cards. Stick with your strength of schedule little diagram, and also let us know when every team has a bye, mate.
I will. So obviously we touched on they're playing the AFC East for the interconference, NFC North intra-conference, and then the AFC West will be providing the 17th game there. So we'll start off with the 49ers, who, funnily enough, even though they made it to the Super Bowl last year, and like as we said, it's strength of schedule based on forecasted wins from like Vegas win totals. So they've actually got the 15th hardest schedule. So they're down in the red. And I'll see if you can pick up, but there's going to be a little anomaly with this division as we go through strength of schedule here. They've got the week 9 bye, a little bit early for my liking. I don't like the bye that early for the 49ers there. The Seahawks, we move to, they've got the 15th easiest schedule. So they're just in the green. Week 10 bye, again, probably borderline, maybe okay from week 10 onwards. And then we move to the Rams. They've got the 16th hardest. Week 6 bye, way too early. That's disgusting. That's way too early. I don't like that at all. We look what they did. What they were able to do after the bye last year. I think it was around a week 10 bye last year. Week 6 is too early. I don't like that. And then the Cardinals, they've got the 16th easiest, and they got a week 11 bye. So that's actually playing into your favour there, I reckon, Danny Boy, of them making the playoffs. But yeah, interestingly enough, this division, they're actually the 4 teams in the middle. So we've got the two on either side of the middle of the easiest, 2 on either side of the middle of the hardest. So they're all lumped in there together, right in the middle of the strength of schedule graph we've got going on.
It is quite a anomaly that you mentioned there, because I thought it lined up with all the others as well. I thought, oh yeah, so the NFC North, they'll have 2 on either side of that, but no other division lines up just like this. So it's a nice little anomaly.
Nice little bow tied off on it.
So just a quick one for you. What is the ideal week for a bye?
I like probably 11 to 13. Because I think you want enough time to get momentum, like get enough games, string them together coming into the postseason. And I think you want it in that close enough to the back half of the season to get a little bit of rest in as well. So I feel like that 11 to 13 is like that real sweet spot for mine.
Yeah. So the Rams, who were coming off a week 6 bye, you're not even sore yet. Like, what are you resting for? And then
I'm not loving
you're probably
that.
just going to have a hard week on the track.
It's such a big stint from week 7 to week 18 without having the break in there. So I don't know. I just don't like that.
No, fair enough. I just wanted to gauge week, because you keep saying that too early. I just wanted to know exactly what it is. Perfect. 11 to 13.
It's important to have that rest week, but then you want to be able to then regather or rebuild momentum coming into the postseason. So I think that just makes it, there's just a nice little window.
Yes, fair enough. All right, So I did pick the schedules. We're going to start at what I think will be the bottom, and it's probably not too far of a guess to think that it is the Cards. I see what you're writing there, Danny, but I'm not. I'm going to stick with it. The Cards, I do think they had, was it 4-13 last year? A few injuries and a few problems in the admin side of things. I reckon they're getting on top of that. Like you said, Gannon's second-year head coach. A couple of pretty big ins from the draft. I reckon they do up it, and they up it to at least 7-10. Danny, you're pretty bullish on this. What is their unders-overs, though, mate?
I'll get to the unders-overs in just a sec, but they actually went 0-6 in their own division last year. So if they can tidy up, their own backyard first and get everything actually sorted and get a couple of wins against at least the Seahawks or the Rams, that can actually completely shift the way the way that they're looking. But their over and unders, you're bang on. It's 7.5, with the under 7.5 being the favourable odd.
I definitely, this time around looking at theirs, I thought where, maybe going into last year might have been different, but the back end of last year, you didn't even trust them at home, I don't think. Where looking at it this time, Seahawks at home, you're like, well, I reckon they could steal that one, or, if they play well on offense, they'll get the job done. So, yeah, definitely great call. Clean up their own backyard, and you never know what's going to happen. third in this division might be a little bit of a shock. Maybe not after what I said earlier. The Rams. The Rams going 8-9. Everyone had these guys. This is just me saying why I think they're 8-9. Had them being they're going to ones that are going to push the 49ers. And Karch, you make a great point about their finish last year. 7 in a row or whatever it was to finish.
7 of 8.
But just 7 of 8, close enough.
Mm.
But
Mm.
I don't know if you can really quantify how big of a loss that Aaron Donald is going to be on that other side of the field. And I worry that it's going to be too much to make up on the offensive side. And they do have 16th hardest. There is, 16 other teams that have got an easier schedule than those guys. So if my math serves me correct. And just a lot of their games, again, I feel like they've got the games you're like, yeah, you'll get the job done. They're at home, so you're going to be pretty happy that they will. So the games that you're a 50-50, I felt like a lot of them were away games. So you kind of lean towards I always lean more on the home team. So I reckon a lot of those 9 losses that I'm giving them is because they were the away team in a tougher schedule, I reckon.
So the over-under is actually sitting at 8.5, and they're saying over 8.5 is the more favourable odds. So they reckon they're going to be hitting around the 9-win mark.
At least, yeah. I don't know. I reckon Aaron Donald's it's too big of a loss to overcome this year, in my thoughts. Cart's thoughts? Am I right or wrong?
I don't think you're too far off the mark. I think we'll know within the first 2 games. I think it'll become pretty apparent within the first 2 to 3 games.
Yeah. So we know with the Seahawks after game 3, and we know after the Rams after game 2 what's going to happen, according to both of you boys. The Seahawks, I had them coming in second. Now, this is, like I said, I wasn't quite all over the OC and DC changes, so that's my bad. But I did give them an 11-6, which when I plug it into a little app, and when it finished at the end, I was like, oh, fuck, that's a little bit higher than I was expecting for those guys. But the same thing, I put a lot on their offense and thought, they've still got some absolute dogs on offense. Geno Smith, I know he didn't have massive numbers, but he was super accurate, I'm pretty sure, 65+% accuracy. So, DK Metcalf's still an absolute beast. Smith and Jigba's only going to get better this year. So I just kept thinking, the offense will get the job done, even though their defense is probably on the weaker side. And again, the 50-50 games, it just felt like a lot of them were at home. So I reckon they're a fair chance of stealing them when they are at home. But, 11-6, Danny, what are your thoughts?
If you were a betting man, I'd start looking at some alternative odds for their over and under, because you might be getting some decent coin back for that. The bookies are probably more on side where I was thinking, it's too many coaching shuffles for them to probably have a consistent season. So they're saying over under at 7.5, with the over being the more favourable odds.
Ooh, I'd take the over. But I think you're a bit generous, maybe.
I think they're around an 8-9 win team. I just don't think they're going to win 11. 11's
yeah.
And I also don't think they're going to be second in the division.
We didn't touch on Kenneth Walker either. He's got another year under the belt. He's only going to get better. So, like you said, offense is going to be pretty sound. And again, the trend of this division, the question is going to be around the defense.
Yeah, 100%. So, obviously, the winners of the division that I've got, they're actually equal favourites with the Chiefs to go on and win the Super Bowl. So I've got the 49ers with their Week 9 too early of a bye, finishing 12-5.
I reckon 12-5 is pretty bang on. As long as everyone stays healthy, it's probably going to be where they're going to head. The bookies are saying under 11.5 wins as the more favourable odds there. So around that 11-12 win mark. They might drop off a little bit from last year, just depending on what actually happens with their defense and if they can stay as consistent as they have been. But it'll be interesting to see, if the bookies are saying they're equal favourite with the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl, the Chiefs are potentially trying to go, which we'll talk about in their episode, but they're trying to go 3 back-to-back. If you're equal with that, you've probably got a relatively good chance.
And Karts, you mentioned they're playing the AFC West as the 17th game. So I think it's around week 6 or 7. We actually have a Super Bowl replay, which is pretty huge.
I'll stand by. I can get that for you. Oh, dear.
Yeah, I reckon it's week 7. But, having a Super Bowl replay in in season's always an incredible game.
Well, and potentially a preview as well, depending on how things shake up. So that'll probably be, you can see the ticket prices for games. I'd say that one will probably be a little bit up there. So week 7, we're
That'll
looking
be
at
on
there.
Is that, where is it?
It's in San Fran.
Okay. So again, I reckon I picked that one and went, San Fran at the home. That's a flip of a coin for me. It'll be a 1.5 line.
That's a game that the Chiefs love to lose as well. They love to lose because then when it comes to playoff times, they're more rested, they've got better legs under them, and they're more hungry. They're feisty. They're feisty little dogs then when the game actually comes back around. The Chiefs love to lose these games. Look at it through the past couple of years, and every single Super Bowl win that the Chiefs had, they've never come out and gone massive win season because they don't need to. They're saving all of themselves. They're playing smart, the Chiefs at the moment. They're playing very, very smart.
It's about the San Fran 49ers. When we do the Chiefs, you can really you can glow them up then, mate. But I do agree with you. They are, All right, we don't need to talk about the Chiefs. They're soon. All right, so the odds for winning the NFC East. Any value, you boys, at the Cardinals? Danny, you might be on them at $12.
No, I'm not going to take him. I'm not going to take him at $12, but I will take him to make the playoffs.
Ooh,
If
okay.
I was quick enough with my digits, I'd find what their price was for making the playoffs. But I imagine it's a little bit less than 12. But so you're not getting on at 12 cards. What about your Seahawks little love affair at $7.50?
No, definitely not. No value in this division other than the 49ers winning. It's a foregone conclusion for mine.
So the fact that I had the Rams going 8 and 9, the bookies saying $4 is a very different story. And like you said, $1.45 for San Fran's. That seems to be one that you put in a nice little multi with another couple of other teams just to juice it up a little bit. But pretty happy to say that the Niners are well and truly favourites for this division, except for if Ayuk leaves, then that might be a little bit of a different. Might jump out to $1.60 or something if he's gone.
Yeah.
You never know. Just wait for that news. So, all right, boys. Chuck him in a multi. Get around it. Make sure you get up Game Pass this weekend. Enjoy all the football. Every team is playing. It's great to have it back, and we'll see you next week. I was waiting for you to make a stupid noise.